That's how we get started on New World Next Week, episode 570. Our second story, BRICS just dropped a manifesto for the New World Order. Grabbing this from our friends at activistpost.com. James and I noticed this week's Kazan Declaration suggests that the BRICS, in its expanded composition, is ready to open a new chapter in its history. Never before have such voluminous documents been adopted as a result of the group's summits. Now, James, test me here. Is it Brazil, Russia, India, China, Spain?
South Africa.
South Africa. Oh, would have put my money on Spain. Okay, thank you. Moreover, the Kazan Declaration will be the subject of great interest in the world's political and academic circles, as well as the subject of criticism of opponents of BRICS. For the first time, the group's unified vision of the current state of the international system is set out in detail. The Declaration, a voluminous document containing 134 paragraphs, some of which are quite long. The statement adopted at the previous summit in Johannesburg in August 2023 was only 93 paragraphs, and the document adopted in Beijing in July 2022 was 75. Thus, year by year, the outcome has become increasingly detailed and is now customary to say substantive, reflecting the gradual increase in the intensity of the group's engagement and the broadening of the substantive scope of its multilateral cooperation. The Kazan Declaration consists of a preamble in 4 sections dealing with strengthening multilateralism, global and regional security, financial and economic cooperation, and humanitarian exchanges. For the first time in BRICS history, the declaration sets out in detail the group's shared vision of the current state of the international system, the common or overlapping approaches to the fundamental global problems of our time and to acute regional crises, and the contours of a desirable and achievable world order as the members of the group currently see it. The details of the plan have been altered. Pray they don't alter it any further. Would you like to know more, James?
I would. Where can we possibly find out more? Oh, I know. Okay, how about instead of going, because as astute listeners and readers out there will know that our activist post article is one of these rah-rah BRICS are changing, they're bringing in the good New World Order kind of articles. But the antidote to that, of course, comes from Edward Slavsquat at the Edward Slavsquat Substack. Would you like to know what the BRICS Declaration is all about? Well, yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon, because when you read, and I've read several of these rah-rah BRICS are saving us from the evil globalist type articles about this Kazan Declaration, but interestingly, not a single one of them actually links to the Kazan Declaration. I wonder why they don't want you to actually read it for yourself. Anyway, we will do that. We'll put that in the show notes so that people can go and actually read it for themselves. But when you do so, you will find out, as Edward Slavsquat points out, oh boy, all of these people are writing about how this declaration is a double death blow to the globalist guys. And yet they don't quite quote from it. Like, for example, quote, "We stress the universal and inclusive nature of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals." Or, quote, "We note the important role of multilateral development banks and development finance institutions, ... in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals." Or, quote, "We reiterate that the objectives, principles, and provisions of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, its Kyoto Protocol, and its Paris Agreement, blah, 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 must be honored. We will strengthen cooperation on a whole range of solutions and technologies that contribute to the reduction and removal of greenhouse gases." Quote, "We recognize the important role of carbon markets as one of the drivers of climate action and encourage enhancing cooperation and sharing experiences in this field." Or, quote, "We reiterate our support to the central coordinating role of the World Health Organization in the implementation of multilateral international efforts to protect public health from infectious diseases and epidemics, and commit to reform and strengthen the international pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response system." Or, quote, "Recognizing the importance of creating an enabling, inclusive, and secure digital economy and the digital connectivity is an essential prerequisite for digital transformation, as well as social and economic growth, we emphasize the need to strengthen cooperation among BRICS countries. We also recognize that emerging technologies such as 5G satellite systems, terrestrial and non-terrestrial networks have the potential to catalyze the development of the digital economy. All right, etc., etc. So as Slav Squat goes on to point out, the theme of this year's BRICS summit was strengthening multilateralism for just global development and security. I think we all understand why BRICS chose this theme, because it's very meaningful and profound. In sharp contrast, the G20, which includes the USA and many other unipolar satanic West nations, will be meeting next month in Rio de Janeiro to discuss building a just world and a sustainable planet. The contrast could not be more extreme, like day and night. So here's a little quiz that he ends you with. Which of these statements is from the BRICS Kazan Declaration? Statement A. We reaffirm our support for the rules-based, open, transparent, fair, predictable, inclusive, equitable, non-discriminatory, consensus-based, multilateral trading system with the World Trade Organization at its core, with special and differential treatment for developing countries, including least developed countries, and reject the unilateral trade restrictive measures that are inconsistent with WTO rules. Or, Statement B. We express our support for actions aimed at reaffirming that a rules-based, non-discriminatory, fair, open, inclusive, equitable, sustainable, and transparent multilateral trading system with WTO at its core is indispensable. We support policies that enable trade and investment to serve as an engine of growth and prosperity for all, fostering a favorable trade and investment environment for all. Which is from the Kazan Declaration, and which is a literal G20 communique. Because spoiler, they're one or the other. And could you tell from those statements which is which? Nope, because they're the same thing. It's the old Office meme. Corporate wants you to tell the difference between these two pictures, G20 and BRICS. No, they're the same. They're the same picture. Anyway, people who don't understand this yet, again, just aren't paying attention and are probably the types of people who still believe Putin's the savior and all of that nonsense garbage. I've talked about this at length before. I will link up my Truth About the BRICS editorial that I wrote years and years ago that's as relevant as ever. And James, you're exactly right. Trying to remember BRICS. Why? What? Brazil? Russia? Why? Why South Africa? Precisely and solely, I guess you could have two reasons for that. One, because it's in Africa and they needed an African country. So South Africa, why not? But two, because BRICS is completely and totally a totally made up, dreamt up idea of economies that essentially have nothing to do with each other, governments that have nothing, no actual linkage between them, except, of course, the entire BRIC concept was dreamt up by Jim O'Neill. At, what bank was that? Goldman Sachs? Yeah. Look into the history of BRICS, where they come from, and what they are actually saying in their declarations, and lo and behold, meet the new world order, same as the old world order.